You know that feeling, that dull ache that just follows you home from work. Or maybe it's that constant tension in your shoulders, from being hunched over a screen all day. Or maybe it's quieter, like that fear of being seen as, well, unreliable if you actually admit you're in pain. For millions, this isn't just a bad day, it's the quiet reality of their working lives. So today we're taking a deep dive into systemic transformation, how we can create workplaces that are genuinely humane and productive. Our mission really is to show you how a pretty radical shift in how we think about work can benefit everyone, not just employees, but whole organizations. Creating places where people don't just survive, they actually thrive.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're pulling from a really compelling mix of sources. There's cutting-edge research, some powerful industry case studies, and also a deeply personal story from a orthopedic surgeon. Let's call him Mr. Z. He went through this transformation himself after a really debilitating injury. So we'll unpack what happens when workplaces just ignore basic human needs. And crucially, how we can turn that around, how to make workplaces flourish, not just function.
Okay, let's start with that grim reality our sources lay out, this hidden epidemic of pain and stress from work.
Yeah, it affects millions. And often, as you said, completely in silence.
People are just quietly managing it, right? Maybe with over-the-counter stuff, changing how they move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of looking unreliable, or maybe they just can't afford to miss a day of work. It's this crisis that's happening, but it's largely invisible.
And the story of Mr. Z really brings this home. He's an orthopedic surgeon, right? And during a routine patient repositioning, something he's done countless times, he felt something go terribly wrong in his back. He actually described hearing something crack deep inside, like kindling breaking. Just awful.
And that wasn't just a physical injury. It really kicked off this profound personal and professional reckoning for him.
And what happened next is, well, quite revealing, isn't it? This institutional blindness he ran into.
It really is. The hospital director's response was just dismissive. Told him people are replaceable.
Replaceable. Wow.
Yeah. Said it was just muscular and even denied him occupational health support. It perfectly shows how systems often just blame the individual instead of looking at the bigger picture, the underlying problems.
It highlights this fundamental issue, doesn't it? Treating people like resources you can just swap out instead of valuable assets.
Precisely. And this connects directly to what our sources call the mythology of individual responsibility.
That tendency to blame the worker for things that are actually system failures.
Exactly. Flawed policies, not enough resources, maybe just poor workplace design. Think about nurse Sarah McKenzie, another example from the sources.
Right, she was injured lifting a patient.
Alone, because the equipment failed and they were short-staffed. But what did the report say?
It blamed her, didn't it? Failure to follow lifting protocols.
And this blame game, it forces what the sources call a culture of silence. People hide their suffering because they're afraid of the consequences.
So you connect those dots, you start seeing this everywhere, right? This hidden army of the walking wounded, as the sources put it.
You do. Nurses, delivery drivers, office workers, people on construction sites, all just enduring quietly. Their bodies are essentially breaking down in service of systems that often just ignore their basic humanity, or even worse, punish them for being vulnerable.
Okay, but here's where it starts to shift. What if there's a way to not just treat the symptoms, but to actually redesign work itself? What if we could build workplaces where injuries are rare and people thriving is just normal?
Well, that's exactly what the E.R.A.S.E low back pain formula aims to do. It's presented as a framework for exactly that kind of change.
E.R.A.S.E. Tell us about that.
So E.R.A.S.E stands for ergonomics, range of motion, assistance, serenity, and equilibrium. But it's not just about back pain, even though that's in the name. It's really a blueprint for systemic transformation across the board.
A holistic approach, then.
Exactly. Holistic and systemic. Designed to create environments that are both humane and productive, but getting at the root causes of why people are suffering at work.
Okay, let's dive into those pillars. First step, E for ergonomics. This is more than just getting a good chair, right?
Oh, much more. It's about radical prevention, really. The sources show ergonomic changes can cut musculoskeletal injuries by up to 60%.
60%? That's huge.
It is. It shows how seemingly small design tweaks can prevent massive costs, both human and financial. It's about fundamentally making the workplace fit you.
Instead of you constantly contorting yourself to fit the workplace.
Precisely. So what does that look like? We're talking adjustable workstations that actually fit different body types, not just some average. Lifting aids that make heavy tasks genuinely manageable.
Yeah.
You shouldn't need superhuman strength just to do your job.
Right.
It means things like vehicle seats designed with spinal health in mind, not just the cheapest option. Tools, furniture, all designed thinking about how our bodies actually work.
Is there an example?
Yeah, one administrative services firm, they brought in adjustable desks, proper ergonomic equipment, better lighting, basically tackled the problems coming from sitting all day.
And the impact is pretty straightforward, isn't it? You
Mhm.
prevent that constant physical strain, you encourage better posture.
And that directly cuts the risk of injury. You're not fighting your environment all day long, fewer aches, less long-term damage. Simple as that, really.
Okay, so we've set up the physical space better with ergonomics, but what about how we move within that space?
Yes. That brings us to R for range of motion.
This is about staying active during the day.
Exactly. Keeping your body vital moving, even in small, consistent bursts. It's designed to counteract those long periods of just sitting still or being in one position, which is so common in modern work.
Because our bodies aren't really designed for that, are they?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Our spines need continuous varied motion. Modern jobs often stifle that. So practical things. Micro breaks for stretching, gentle spinal rotations, maybe even walking meetings instead of sitting around a table.
Walking meetings, I like that.
Yeah. And the sources mention Robert Chen's 2-minute reset in a factory setting. Just specific spinal movements. It became really popular. They said it was contagious.
Now, when I first heard range of motion, I just thought, okay, stretching. But you mentioned earlier the science behind this is much deeper.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just stretching. These movements are doing profound things.
Like what?
Well, for starters, they ensure your intervertebral discs, the cushions in your spine, get the nutrients they need through that gentle compression and decompression. Plus, you're stimulating beneficial neurochemicals. Things like endorphins, which are your body's natural pain relievers,
Right.
and also BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's this amazing protein that helps your brain grow new connections and actually get better at managing pain signals.
Wow. Okay, so movement helps your brain handle pain better.
It does, and it helps regulate stress hormones like cortisol.
Hmm.
Over time, it can literally help rewire the brain to reduce how you perceive pain and even boost cognitive function.
Mm-hmm.
It's genuinely movement as medicine for the body and the brain.
Okay, that's fascinating. But even with good ergonomics and regular movement, sometimes a task is just too much for one person. Which leads us nicely to A for assistance. This pillar is about building support right into the system, isn't it?
Yes, making sure that no one has to lift or maneuver heavy loads alone. It's about institutionalizing help.
So making teamwork actual policy, not just hoping colleagues will help each other out.
Exactly that. It means proper training in lifting techniques, yes, but crucially, ensuring that mechanical aids, lifts, hoists, whatever's needed are always available, working properly, and easy to access and use.
This seems like a direct counter to that idea of institutional fiction you mentioned earlier.
It is. Remember Nurse Sarah McGanzy? The support was supposedly there on paper, but in reality, when she needed it, it wasn't. That leaves people vulnerable.
That makes sense. But it raises a question for me. If asking for help sometimes feels like admitting weakness, how do you actually build a culture where it's seen as, well, professional competence, as the smart thing to do?
You build it into the system. When mechanical aids are readily available, when team lifts are standard procedure for certain tasks, it normalizes asking for and using assistance. It does more than just prevent injuries. It builds trust. It builds mutual aid among colleagues. It takes away that shame or self-doubt people often feel if they get hurt and replaces it with a sense of, we look out for each other here. Help becomes an expectation, not an exception.
Okay, that covers the physical aspects, the environment, movement, help. Now let's shift gears a bit to S for serenity. This one feels different. It's about the psychological side, the things that make pain feel worse.
Exactly, those invisible amplifiers. Because pain isn't just a simple physical sensation, is it? It's a complex neurological experience. The sources bring up Dr. Patricia Melzak's gate control theory. Think of it like your nervous system having a gate for pain signals.
Okay.
Normally, this gate can modulate signals, maybe close a bit, but chronic stress, it essentially jams that gate wide open. Your nervous system gets primed for threat detection.
So everyday work stress can feel like a real threat to your brain.
Pretty much. The amygdala, your brain's threat detector, might react to, say, an understaffed ICU shift, almost like it would react to a charging lion.
Wow.
It triggers stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, and over time, this constant state of alert actually rewires your brain, making it more sensitive to pain signals. It amplifies everything.
And workplaces often pile on these stress multipliers, as the sources call them.
They do.
Yeah.
Constant time pressure, maybe electronic monitoring, watching your every move, difficult bosses, job insecurity, having no control over your work, not feeling recognized.
It all adds up.
Absolutely. Think of Sarah Martinez, the critical care nurse mentioned, just gripping her steering wheel before her shift even started, feeling her cortisol spike. That's the reality for many.
So for you listening, if this sounds familiar, if you feel that amplification, what can actually be done? How do we cultivate serenity in these demanding places?
Well, systematically. It's not just about telling people to relax. Organizations can implement things like micro-recovery breaks. Yeah, short breaks using techniques like the 4-7-8 breathing method or progressive muscle relaxation. Just a minute or two can help reset the nervous system. Then there are sound and visual interventions. Think natural sounds, specific types of music, Bach or ambient electronic were mentioned, or even having nature documentaries or gentle comedies playing in break rooms.
So calming the senses.
Exactly. Also, mindfulness practices, even something simple like mindful hand washing. Cognitive strategies, too, like managing your information diet, maybe not checking stressful emails right before bed, or cognitive reframing, learning to look at situations differently. And finally, optimizing the environment itself. Natural lighting, quiet zones where people can actually decompress. It all contributes.
Okay, that's serenity. Which brings us to the final pillar, the last E, equilibrium. This sounds like work-life balance, but maybe deeper.
It is. It's about balancing the demands of work with enough time and space for genuine recovery and having a meaningful life outside the job. It's about preventing that constant feeling of being utterly drained.
You mentioned a recovery deficit. What does that mean?
It's when the demands consistently outstrip your resources for rest and restoration, day after day, week after week. The sources use the example of Surgeon Thomas Brennan. Working constantly, 10, 12, 14-hour days, it led to a physical and psychological breakdown for him. And his family life suffered hugely.
It becomes mathematically impossible, doesn't it, to work those hours and still recover properly?
It really does. And the ripple effects go beyond the individual. Strained family relationships, maybe kids acting out like emergency physician Sarah Kim experienced, even social isolation within the community.
But what's fascinating here, again, is that achieving this equilibrium isn't just, nice for the employees. The research shows it's actually a strategic advantage for the company.
Absolutely. It's not fluffy stuff.
Right.
Organizations can implement practical strategies. Reasonable shift patterns, making sure there's adequate staffing so people aren't constantly overloaded, flexible scheduling.
Like 4-day work weeks.
Exactly. Or results-only work environments, where it's about the output, not just hours clocked. We've seen successful trials of these in places like Iceland, Microsoft, Japan, even Thrive Global. They often find productivity actually increases.
Less work, more output. Seems counterintuitive, but the data supports it.
It does. But leadership is key here. Leaders have to model sustainable work habits themselves and make sure resources are allocated properly. And individually, you can focus on managing your energy, not just your time, setting clear boundaries between work and life, having recovery rituals like that decompression drive home or a completion review to mentally close out the workday.
Okay, so we've gone through E.R.A.S.E ergonomics, range of motion, assistance, serenity, equilibrium. When organizations actually implement this kind of systemic transformation, what happens? What are the results?
Well, as you said, it's not just about being humane, though it is that. It's a strategic imperative. The outcomes are tangible and measurable.
Like cost savings.
Dramatic cost savings. One transport company saved almost 200,000 pounds a year just on back pain costs. An administrative firm cut their musculoskeletal costs by over 80%. And Davidson Industries, a big example. In the sources, they slashed workers' comp costs by 67%, cut lost production time by more than half. They calculated over a 300% return on their investment.
Wow, 300% ROI. That's significant.
It is, and it goes beyond just costs. Productivity and quality go up. Why? Because healthier workers who aren't stressed out make fewer mistakes. They can focus better, they deliver better quality, better service.
Makes sense.
And innovation gets a boost too. When people aren't just surviving, their mental energy is freed up for creative thinking, for problem solving.
And I imagine it helps with hiring and keeping people.
Massively. These places become employers of choice. They attract top talent and keep them. Davidson saw a 400% jump in job applications after their changes.
400%.
Yeah. So ultimately, worker health isn't just an HR issue. It becomes a real strategic competitive advantage.
And this isn't just theoretical, right? You mentioned Davidson Industries. Are there other real-world examples where companies put E.R.A.S.E principles into action?
Oh yes, several compelling ones. Davidson, the manufacturing conglomerate, really re-engineered the work itself. Comprehensive ergonomics, movement breaks, solid assistance protocols, huge drops in injuries and costs, better quality, better reputation.
Huh?
Then there's that transport company, run by Mike and Sarah. Drivers had huge rates of back pain. They applied E.R.A.S.E ergonomic assessments for the vehicles, mandatory movement breaks. Back pain costs basically vanished. Driver satisfaction
It's
soared,
just disappeared. Amazing.
pretty much. And the administrative services firm, led by Donna, they had all those issues from sedentary work, adjustable desks, better equipment, movement programs, over 80% drop in related costs, better engagement. And St. Margaret's Hospital. After nurse Sarah McKenzie's injury really highlighted the systemic issues, the new leader, Dr. Elizabeth Morrison, pushed changes. Staffing levels, equipment maintenance, training. They saw a 73% drop in worker injuries. And patient satisfaction went up too.
That's powerful. And for equilibrium,
Companies like Patagonia, Microsoft, Salesforce are often cited. Flexible schedules, generous time off, mindfulness programs. And they consistently show outstanding financial performance alongside high employee satisfaction and innovation. The link is clear.
so going back to Mr. Z, the surgeon whose story started this whole exploration, he eventually realized his struggle wasn't unique, was it?
No, he realized he was part of this fellowship of the cracked, as he called it. Millions of people carrying these invisible burdens, often thinking they're alone,
That's a very evocative phrase, fellowship of the cracked.
isn't it? His personal crisis became a lens, a way to understand this much larger global issue. And he drew on experts, Butler and Mosley, talking about pain as an alarm system, McGill on the mechanics of the spine, O'Sullivan on how fear can paralyze recovery, Segrist on that effort-reward imbalance.
So his experience connected all these threads.
Yes, reinforcing that pain is information, that healing needs both science and story, and that our workplaces fundamentally shape us. They either erode us or they sustain us.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? I think the message is that cracked is not broken, and that transformation, even starting from a place of deep pain or frustration, is absolutely possible.
It really is. This deep dive has shown just how profound the impact can be when we shift towards systemic transformation. It's not just about the balance sheets.
It's about human lives, isn't it? Our families, our communities.
Absolutely. Prioritizing well-being using principles like E.R.A.S.E. It's not just nice to have altruism. It's a strategic imperative. And it proves that even from difficult places, from being cracked, really positive, lasting change can happen.
And that single injury, like Mr. Z's,
Yes.
it can be a catalyst, right? A doorway, maybe, into humility, into curiosity.
And into a powerful movement for change. Yeah.
You know? So maybe the question for you to reflect on is this. What crack in your workplace, or maybe even in your own approach to work and recovery, is just waiting for a little light to get in?
That's a great question.
What small adjustment could you make daily, something that compounds over time, like an investment in your future self?
Or maybe what larger systemic change could you start advocating for, knowing now that it builds workplaces that are both more humane and more productive for everyone?
Because that architecture of assistance, as the sources put it, it's waiting to be built.
Every small act of mutual aid, every improvement to the system, every time we acknowledge our shared vulnerability, it adds another brick to those structures that can support people for generations.
So let's commit to building that world together. One workplace, one worker, maybe one small ergonomic improvement at a time.
Until the day when nobody has to choose between earning a living and having the health that actually makes life worth living.
Because, as we've really unpacked today, cracked is definitely not broken.